On episode 161 of the 40 Plus Fitness podcast, we meet with Paulette Sherman and discuss her book, The Book of Sacred Baths. You can find the show notes for this episode at 40plusfitnesspodcast.com/161. Have you decided you're ready to make a change? To reclaim your health and fitness? The 40 Plus Fitness podcast is here for you. I'm your host, Alan Meisner. I'm an NSAM certified personal trainer with a specialization in corrective exercise and fitness nutrition. Let me be your coach as you find your way on your health and fitness journey. All right, let's go. Today we're going to talk to Paulette Sherman. She's a clinical psychologist who's written over 20 books. She's a Reiki master, a life coach, basically an all-around rounded person. And when I first got the book from the publisher on baths, I was thinking, I don't know that this is a book I would want to share with you, but let me take a look at it. And the more I got into the book, the more I realized that this was more than just a take a warm bath, relax kind of book. This was a process of healing. This was a process of meditation. It was really taking kind of a lot of the concepts that I think are extremely valuable for us and was applying them in a way that I thought was really, really unique. This is, again, not just about taking a bath. It's not just about some rituals and some meditations. It really is a holistic program for dealing with your health, dealing with your relationships, just dealing with life in general. So I'm glad to have her on. Again, this is a different type of episode for us, but I do encourage you to listen, and guys, just as well, because this is more about building relationships with your family, building relationships with yourself, and a lot of the material that's in the book is applicable to anyone. So I do encourage you to stick around, and with no further ado, Paulette Sherman. So Paulette, welcome to 40 Plus Fitness.
Thank you, Alan. I'm so happy to be here.
When I first got your book, and obviously it was about baths, and I was thinking, okay, this is going to be interesting because I'm not much of a bath taker. I will on occasion take a bath, but I'm like, most guys, as you know, we just hop in the shower, do a little bit of scrubbing, and then we're back out. And so as I kind of got into the book, there were just aspects of it in the way that you approached the bath, the way you approached it with your husband especially. And then you got into the history, and I was like, okay, now I get it. Now I get what this is all about. This is not about the bath. This is about the experience.
Yes, absolutely. It is. I say that in the beginning of the book. I say this is not just a book about baths. This is an experience, and this is a gift to yourself, really, whether you're male or female.
Yeah. And so again, as I got into it, and then, again, I really appreciate the history of it because I've traveled a good bit, and I know that, the baths were kind of a social scene, an opportunity to kind of relax and recollect, and very much a part of being mindful and slowing your life down a little bit. And so again, from a stress reduction perspective and just again, relationship perspective, I think those are two aspects that we can't fix in the gym. We can do so much in the gym, and then if you're not taking care of your life and your body, and I've said this on my podcast a lot, is my recovery from being unhealthy and being in bad relationships, and coming from being a career-focused individual that was so one-dimensional, it was that realization that I needed kind of to recollect and every once in a while just get myself back into the mindset of balance. And I think these baths and the rituals that are associated with baths are great opportunities for us to kind of get that balance back.
Yes, thank you. And as a psychologist, I definitely, and even as a person, I definitely agree with you because I went through my own illness and stuff, and I really looked at how mind, body, emotions, and spirits all work together, So this was my piece of bringing sort of that in to create balance in a very short amount of time as a working mom and, author and mom and wife and all that. It was kind of like the way that I found that was manageable and that I could kind of train my kids to give me that little time in the bathroom in the morning so that I could use all these tools and then kind of go out and be more empowered and more effective in my life.
And I think you're right about that is so many people are like, where am I going to find the 5 to 10 minutes to do meditation type practice? And this is effectively kind of wrapping this up into something you were going to do anyway, but now making it a much more mindful opportunity. And again, like you said, just kind of that people will understand if you're going to spend 5-10 minutes taking a bath, And then making it a ritual kind of builds on that as making it something very mindful, something very purposeful that's going to add value to your life each day.
Absolutely. And also I would add fun because like a lot of things that we do because we know we should and hopefully as they become habits, we actually do enjoy them. But I found this to be like one of the most enjoyable way to make changes in your life because I actually look forward to it, like with the smells of the essential oils and just the quiet and the candlelight. And, it's just like a very special time for myself. So it's kind of like I said before, a gift you're giving to yourself. And then you can kind of create these changes, which we'll go into from the inside out. So it's fun.
So now, of course, I've read the book and you wrote the book. So let's take a step back and let's define what a ritual bath, a sacred bath would be.
Sure. Well, I like to distinguish a sacred bath from just a regular bath because when I first did it, I would try to do this idea, which we'll go into, but I'd wash my hair and shave my legs. So a regular bath is really like a physical hygiene experience, right? Where you're thinking about your day and doing other things. But this is actually distinct from that because it's your mental, emotional, and spiritual hygiene. So I would actually say if you're going to take a quick shower, do it afterwards or before where you do all those other things. And this is just a mindful practice for your emotions, mental health, and spirit to connect with those things. And it's a sacred space to get guidance and to return to a state of peace and love before you go back out into your daily life.
And now sacred baths have some history, which was I love history, so I kind of enjoyed that part of the book. So tell us a little bit about some of the history of sacred baths.
Sure. So all different cultures around the world have baths, and I've seen some of them. I know you were telling me you've seen some, but I definitely have looked into it and written about it. So the Russians have banyas, which they go alternate between steam and cooling in different rounds. The Turkish had hammams. The Greek and Romans had special baths, and there's even bath. You're not in New York, but I'm here in New York that I went to called air baths, AIRE, that mimics. It's really beautiful. The tepidarium and flotatariums that they had. The Jews have mikvahs, which is like a metaphor for restoration in the womb. The Japanese have something called sentos. The Native Americans had this ritual, the Cherokee, which is going to the water where they immerse and they thank the Great Spirit. The Mayans had bathing rituals to treat disease. And there's just so many. I could go on, but but you get the idea.
It's not a new concept.
Not a new concept. And actually, I even read, I don't know if this is true, but the Egyptian priestesses had pools that they would sit in for days and meditate in the pyramids. So, I mean, just imagine yourself that you're not alone in there, that this is not, right, just a modern day ritual, that this has layers and layers of spirituality and history and about healing and symbolism, of bringing, it's even in the Bible, bringing in the divine, healing, the great mother, the ocean, so the unconscious, and we're all 70 to 90% water, depending on our age. So water connects us, and it's a really huge, important symbol for purification. Yeah.
Now, you said it before. This is not your normal, wash your hair, shave your legs type of. And I don't shave my legs, by the way, but I get it. It's a normal part of taking a bath. But there are some elements to this that you're going to want to include to kind of get the whole experience. And so you call those the elements of a sacred bath. Could you kind of go through the elements and kind of explain what it is and how it's used?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So there are probably at least 10 essential elements in the process. And I'm not even going into the setup process, which is in the book, which is really just like a 2-minute meditation. I'll just mention that you say to attune to the waters and to kind of center yourself before you would climb into the bath. But the elements of the bath that we're going to discuss are sort of the recipe, if you will. And it explains why this process does work and why it's so powerful. It's taking these tools and putting them all together in a short amount of time so that you can maximize the bath prescription, if you will. So the law of attraction is a universal law where it says that if you match your thoughts, feelings, and actions, right, you're going to be the most powerful. And I think even Gandhi made a statement regarding that at one point. So what it does is normally, let's say if you are in the bathroom, you might be fretting about your day and all the things you don't want to happen, the things you're worried about. We tend to just, as a psychologist, I know we tend to think more negatively most of the time. And so we're actually not adding anything positive to that time. But by the law of attraction, you go in with this, which I'll talk about, an intention, and you're going to picture what you do want instead and become really clear about that and how that experience feels and how it looks. And so that you're embodying it inside first so you can then go and create it. So that's the law of attraction piece. There's also prayer, where you're entreating a higher power for guidance. So it's something bigger than you, and it's giving you a higher perspective. And if you're somebody who doesn't believe in, like, say, God or the goddess or angels, you can call upon your higher self. And what this does is it gives you the option to, like, instead of coming from your ego monkey mind where you're really attached to something, it's like seeing it from the highest perspective for the greatest good of yourself and all. And I've gotten a lot of wisdom that way in my bath experience. So it's another way to hear guidance and get wisdom. Meditation, it's a way to clear your mind and focus your attention on one thing. So in this bath process, you're learning how to not, like I said, get distracted by your to-do list, by what's going on with other people, by the TV, the phone, all that. It's your 25 minutes to just focus on your intention. And by learning to do that and practicing that, it does carry over into your day, and you begin to notice it elsewhere. And, I'm not getting into the research, but there's a lot of research on meditation, which says that, like, it lasts after, if you're doing it regularly, it lasts like 3 months in terms of all the benefits. So there's a lot of benefits to each of these. And intention is really your context for your bath ritual, right? So it's, why am I getting in here? What is it that I hope to achieve? What is my spiritual and emotional context for this bath? So for example, if I want to relax and let go of any negativity, that would be one intention. And there's 52 different intentions, one for each week of the year in my bath rituals. But I don't want to skip over how important that is, because again, if you don't have one specific thing to focus on, then, it'll water down the entire ritual, because you really want to accomplish something during that time. And which we'll get into later, but the essential oils and the crystal and all of that, the meditation prayer, they're all reinforcing each other around the energy of that specific intention. Visualization, there's a lot of research on that. Basically, you're seeing what it is that you want to attract. And some of the research, like especially with athletes, because I know you do a lot with that, has shown that even if you visualize shooting baskets versus practicing it, that you'll do almost as well. And even like if you're, playing the piano and doing the scales versus like imagining the scales, when they scan the brain, that it's very similar in terms of the finger movement part. So it's almost like an inner rehearsal, and athletes know this, that it really does help to visualize things in order to then manifest them and achieve them.
Yeah, and you can actually take that all the way down to just the base level of completing a workout or completing a race. And so I tell people when they're about to go into maybe their first 5K and they're very concerned about whether they can make the distance, I just say, visualize yourself crossing that finish line. So typically most 5Ks finish where they began. So I'm like, walk over and look at what that finish line looks like and visualize yourself running through it. And a lot of people have found that just that little act of taking just a minute to see themselves running through that finish line gives them that energy to perform much better.
Yes. And I don't know if you know, I always mess this up because I'm not a runner, unfortunately. My dad used to run, but there's something like, I don't know if it's a 1 minute mile or a 5 minute mile, but this story stuck with me where like nobody was doing it. And everyone was a great athlete and would try from all different countries. And then one guy did it, and then everybody started to do it right afterwards. So it wasn't that they physically couldn't, but there was sort of a mental block, right? That it isn't possible.
Yeah, that was actually the 4 minute mile. And they're saying a lot of people now have that same kind of mental block about the 2 hour marathon, as no one has broken the 2 hour marathon. Well, yeah, I mean, I can sit and watch it on TV for 2 hours with no problem, but yeah, the fastest runners in the world are like just a couple of minutes away from the 2 hour marathon, and it's so they know that physically these athletes could achieve it. They just, again, it's kind of one of those just mental blocks that they just haven't quite gotten there yet, but it will happen. And just like you said, after the first person does it, it just kind of sets the principle that this is achievable. And so, again, that's kind of the aspects of visualization of anything in life is if you believe it, if you truly believe it in your heart, that's the first step of true success.
Absolutely. And so part of the law of attraction, also visualization, is like feeling like the feelings you would feel while you're doing it and seeing it and getting the guidance on the action so that then you can be that in the world and go out and you kind of remove those blocks. And so I even talk about letting any negative emotions or any limiting beliefs go down the drain so that you're just bathing in love and then you're visualizing what it is you want. And then also there are the 5 elements, earth, air, fire, and water that you're balancing, and that they're represented by the bath, by the water, by the salt of the earth, by the fire, by spirit, the air. And we have a candle, which represents spirit. And you also can match the color to whatever your intention is. So now we're getting very picky uni, but and also I would say that if you don't have the exact color candle and everything, it's not going to spoil the ritual, because for a long time I didn't have all these supplies that I'm mentioning, but they're just nice elements that are symbolic that add to the specialness of the whole thing and create layers around your intention. So for example, if you want a healing bath, the color green is often healing, so you could light a candle representing healing, or white for peace. So that's an example of that element of the bath. So then also we should mention, you mentioned that it's a ritual, and a ritual is something that bridges your inner and outer reality and creates sacred space. And they've even done research showing that rituals are very important because they're like practicing something over and over again. And that they also help people to value something more because they become personally involved in it, and it heightens its perceived value. So creating a ritual is something that's extra special. It's like taking something ordinary and making it sacred. And that's what we're doing at the bath. We're taking an existing modern day ritual and we're leveraging it to make it a little bit larger than life and to be that really healing space that you can then carry with you throughout the day. And so the last 2 elements are after you do this bath ritual where you get in, you do the prayer. It's all in the book, like, for whatever your intention is, you do the prayer, the meditation, the affirmation, and the visualization, all the things we just mentioned. And then afterwards you blow out the candle. And this part is optional, but this is what I do just for 5 minutes. I have a glass of herbal tea, and I have different teas that match the energy of your bath. So for example, like if it's a couple's bath for marriage, you might have apple blossom tea or something like that represents marriage. And you can then journal about any guidance you got, in that case regarding the relationship, or if you're doing a self-care bath regarding like things that you could do to take better care of yourself in your daily life. And then the point of the journal is it's that bridge for whatever guidance you receive from your bath to then take it out into your everyday life and see how you're doing with that.
Well, my wife would beat me up if not really, but she's really now starting to really kind of get into understanding the essential oils and crystals. So I want to back you up a little bit. We went through them fairly quickly, and we're going to talk about some of the actual baths, and I think maybe that'll be an opportunity to kind of show the application a little bit better. But I guess science is kind of catching up with the idea that kind of the harmonics from crystals and some of the things with essential oils, as far as the way our body reacts to them, there's properties that are important in many of these oils and crystals. Could you kind of go into that just a little bit? Because it's a new field for me, but I'm seeing more and more where I'm not going to say going mainstream so much, but it's getting a lot more emphasis in science studies and whatnot. And it's starting to bear the task that, some of this stuff is actually, it has some merit. So could you take a little bit of time?
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, it's from the level of which will be wonderful when the research proves it. And I do believe that there is merit to it. But I think also there's just the even enjoyable aspect of how beautiful. I don't know if your wife has shown you the crystals or you've held them, but I know my kids are fascinated with them and they're beautiful, the shapes, the colors. So there's that. And also with the essential oils, I just want to mention, like, even if you're not a big believer in them, that they have beautiful smells. So there's that as well. But crystals are natural stones that have healing properties. They have their own color, their own vibration, and they're said to cleanse negative energies. And each crystal has like a different structure, and they're said to attract different things. So there's a lot you could know about it. You could be an expert in crystals, right? I'll give you some examples, but some people even say that crystals store memory as well. So that if you're speaking your intention and you're, imagining these great thoughts, that your crystal might even store that. So that's debatable. So what we did in this bath ritual is that we're going to pick a crystal that would match your intention. So I'll give you like an example. But one thing that if you just wanted to buy one kind of crystal, you could get a clear quartz crystal, because if you were doing 52 different baths, that is a crystal that amplifies your intention. So it would work with pretty much any intention. So that would be a good one. And none of these are expensive. I just got some on Amazon. They come right to your house and they're not too expensive at all. And they're really beautiful. And a rose quartz could be a good one if you're a dater or you want to attract love, or you want to open your own heart to love, and that's a pink crystal. There are stones that they say like Amazonite that could increase trust, aventurine that increase new opportunities or helps you with self-doubt. Black tourmaline is a good one if you want to let go of negative thoughts and have more grounding. So I could go on, but these are some examples.
Well, no, we're going to go through some of the sacred baths. So that's good information. We'll talk about some of the crystals that are involved with the ones that we want to talk about.
Okay, perfect. Do you want me to say something about essential oils or?
Please do, yes.
Okay, so they're from plants, obviously, that are distilled, and they're the highest frequency known to man. Actually, distillation began like 700 years ago, and it was mentioned in the Bible because I think even Esther was massaged with myrrh for 6 months before her marriage. So that's kind of neat. They've been using them for a really long time. And if they are high vibration, which is what is said, then you're actually sitting in that. And so it's possible that, that vibration could raise your vibration. Some people say that the essential oils cleanse your aura. I already talked about how wonderful they smell. So even that is amazing. And that these different oils are said to attract different things because they have different vibrations and different properties. So for example, they've done a lot of studies, like you said, on essential oils, and especially things like lavender for peace and relaxation and deep breathing. Some people say that jasmine essential oil is really good for romantic love and soothing. Lemon is good for increasing trust and your self-image. Patchouli for emotional release or even abundance. So there's all different ones. And again, you could get a book on this, but in my book, I try to say what each one is for. So if there's like a few essential oils to put in the bath with a few drops, I'll explain what it's doing and why it's in there.
Let's take just a moment then. And there were a few as I kind of went through, and I know you're saying you've got 52 and that's one a week, but I think, I kind of looked at this and said, there's some of these that I think would be a lot more valuable to me today. I know over time that might change and I might want to try some of the others, but I picked 3 that I said, okay, if I'm looking at myself, just saying, being fully honest, which one of these baths just appeal to my current needs or wants? And so I did pick 3. And the first one I picked was the bath of self-care. So if we could take just a minute, and again, we don't have to go into a ton of detail, but just kind of talk about, the process, a little bit about the oils, and just a little bit about the crystals that are associated with that bath. And then we'll move on to the next one.
Sure. And I wasn't surprised at the ones you picked, and I think they're actually really good ones because I'm hoping they would also appeal to the men that are listening as well, and also just to like health in general. They seem like really grounded ones, so I'm glad you picked those. So the bath of self-care is probably my favorite one because I feel like we all could use self-care, particularly now with like the recent news events and just all the stress levels. So the bath of self-care is really a bath that I created, and I can talk about what goes into it, but so that you take time out for yourself, so that you realize you're the source of everything that you do, and that you take that time out almost to get guidance on what the rest of your week would look like, or how you can take little pockets of time to really be mindful of that. And so anyway, what goes into this bath is jasmine oil, which is for soothing and self-confidence, rose oil, which is for self-love, lavender oil, and all these smell amazing, lavender oil, which creates peace, and a rose quartz crystal, which is for self-care and self-love. And then afterwards, jasmine tea. And for this meditation, which I have a little meditation for each one, I chose Mother Earth because I feel like she's non-denominational and very grounding and unconditional love, and a pink candle. But I mean, if you're male and you want to use a different color candle, it really doesn't matter. But it's just to represent love and to bathe in that. And so basically in this kind of a meditation, you're looking at, you're trying to figure out what self-care routines benefit you and could become a habit in terms of making time for yourself and remembering how important it is to kind of refuel and reset yourself in terms of the success of everything else that you're going to do. And it's so easy in my experience, when you have a lot of roles and responsibilities, to kind of be there for everyone else and forget that. So this is that 25 minutes of a reminder. And so you would call in, in this case, Mother Earth, you can call in whatever guide you want or your higher self. And you ask her how you can improve your self-care and see what messages you get after you do some deep breathing and you do this meditation. And you may hear different things like, suggestions about exercise and taking a walk by the water near you, or to do some meditation, to do these baths. You may hear different things. And so the idea is to just be open and receptive, about what messages that you're getting, and also what gets in your way. Because I'm just looking at it now, what I wrote, and it says, like, what does your negative voice say? You have no time for self-care, or what are your beliefs about that? If your mom that you can't, there's guilt around it, let's say. And so you can also picture letting go of all of your negative thoughts, beliefs, and limitations around self-care. And I say, let them go down the drain so that Mother Earth can slurp them up as fertilizer for new growth and create a new intention, like I am completely committed to my self-care. So it walks you through that, and you visualize the benefits in your life and what it is that specifically that you were told to do. And so then afterwards, you would go into your little space of relaxation, which for me is just like my bedroom for 5 minutes because I don't have a lot of time in the morning. And I would just sip my tea and write down what it is I was told, at least one new self-care habit that I'm going to do. And then the practical part is then you try to monitor your progress and your results in your journal so that, you have this wonderful ritual and this guidance and you did refuel for the day, but then you can actually integrate it hopefully into your life. And I would say too that even though there are 52 baths, like if there are 3 that are seminal for you, like you can come back to them various times and get more information. You don't just have to do them once.
Again, I want to go back because I think the journaling is kind of a really important piece to this, is that, I guess it's more from a business side, but what gets monitored gets managed. And so if you're taking the time to write this down and make this kind of your go forward plan, just kind of, keeping up with your thoughts as you go each day, how well are you progressing on what this self-care moment is for you? I mean, typically I think we know inherently what that next thing needs to be, but this stopping and making it intentional to really kind of get your mindset that this is the direction is really, really good. And so the next one I want to talk about is the return to peace bath. I've been going through quite a bit of anxiety lately, and I've been kind of open and honest about that here on the podcast. Is just there's a lot going on, and kind of keeping myself in a calm, peaceful state is something that really appeals to me. So I really was looking forward to talking to you about this bath.
Sure. Any way I can help. And if you have any specific questions, please let me know, because I think you're not alone in that. And I mentioned before, this is just what I'm hearing from my client. I'm a life coach and also a therapist a couple of days a week. And so I hear a lot, like just the anxieties with the violence and all the events and the election and just like a lot of unknowns. And it could be different personal things for each person, but there is a lot of stress, and it's very hard to not be distracted, even with social media and all the electronics and all that, and to really have time to check in and to be, like you said, to empower your own inner state, which then you can take out into the world. Because if we don't take that time to be still and quiet, then we're kind of just bombarded by all those other energies. Right. And we can't consciously reset. So that's one of the purposes of this bath. And you can take 25 minutes. I like to do it in the morning so that you're kind of resetting before you go out to your day. But a lot of people, if they can't do that, they do it before bed or whenever works for them. So this return to peace bath is basically kind of what we just discussed, is like letting anything negative that you've been dealing with and limiting beliefs and emotions and things that you're worried about, letting them down the drain. If you believe in a higher power, you can even surrender them over to like your guardian angel or to whoever you're calling in. I'm trying to see who I put here. I can go over the different elements, but I said Archangel, I can't even say it, but Melchizedek. But he was the angel of peace, which I thought was interesting because like Llewellyn's a spiritual publisher. So I wanted to have layers of knowledge for people about the different angels and what they do. It's just fun, but you can call in whatever works for you, your higher self or an angel or, God. So anyway, the idea is to like give it over to a higher power or just release it so that you're not carrying that, because sometimes that, they say that there's things that you can change and things that you really can't, things that are outside of yourself. But what you can do is affect your mental, emotional, and spiritual state. So you're giving yourself that time to let go of all that and to picture what you do want instead, which in this case is peace and relaxation, and you're creating that from the inside out. And I think in this book, I even talk about my own personal thing that I was going through at the time I was writing this, which my mom had Parkinson's, and she was sick and she would end up in the ER without notice. And I was doing a lot of really long work days and stuff, and I couldn't control when these things would happen. So I needed to get my head into a headspace where I could be my best for her and for everything, and also for myself. And this was very helpful. So anyway, in the bath recipe, you put 3 drops of lavender oil, which calms and relaxes, frankincense oil, which slows and deepens your breathing and helps to remove any stress, and orange oil, which is really great for like lightness and abundance and peace. So you're putting that in, and you're putting in Epsom salt and a quartz crystal and a white candle for peace. And later you're going to have chamomile tea, which I find very, very relaxing. So you would light your white candle and you call on this angel I mentioned and ask to fill the bath with peace and to wash away the stress of all possible futures and anything from the past or any limiting beliefs or anxiety. And just to try to learn to be happy in the moment, because I said peace makes everything lovely right now. So then you can visualize what it is that you need to do to remain in peace. Like say you're having a particular situation at work or, the one I mentioned, and try to get any guidance around that so that you can then return to that state at any time. And so there's a meditation on how to do that with your angel and a prayer, and then an affirmation. In this case would be like, I'm at peace no matter what is going on around me, because peace is created within and I am peace. And so this is a process that I did very quickly, but it's about 20 minutes. So you're relaxing, you're letting everything go. You're just being in the smells and the peace and getting any guidance and breathing. And when you're done, you thank your angel, blow out the white candle. And before you forget, you go into the other room with your tea, in this case, chamomile tea, and you would journal about any insights regarding that situation and how to be at peace with it, because that's really the only thing you can do. A lot of times we can't control the outside world and what is happening. It's just our approach to it and our approach to ourselves around it as well.
It's kind of ironic we're talking about peace, and I can hear a fire truck in your background. So
yeah, I'm sorry. I tried to turn all my phones on.
Yeah, no. But you live in the city, so I've been in the city, and I think if I lived in the city, I'd be taking this bath every morning.
Yeah, I'm on the 16th floor, and I still hear it.
Okay, and the one I wanted to close out with, and on this podcast, I think people won't be surprised that this was the one I picked, is the commitment bath. And the reason I really kind of get into commitment, and I think it's such an important word, is a lot of times when we set intentions to do something, we make a decision to do something, we'll use weak words like resolution or willpower, those types of words, or motivation. And the reality is we don't follow through. But no one's going to think less of you if you fail at a resolution. But if you quit on a commitment, suddenly now it has a different context. You don't cheat on commitments. We don't appreciate cheaters on commitments. But if you cheated on a resolution, or you just say you lack willpower, well, those are so common that no one even thinks twice about those fails. And so I really like the term commitment, because again, that kind of ties you in to really accomplishing something great. If you really, really want it enough, where you're going to make a commitment. And again, because of the nature of what we're doing with the bath, is it's really a ritual of self-care. It really takes two of my favorite concepts of self-care and commitment and kind of ties those together. So could you get into the commitment bath?
Sure. And it's funny that I'm talking to you about it because I haven't actually gone through my book in a while. But when I originally was talking about it, I think it might have been under couples baths. I'm not sure. But in terms of the goddess I chose being Hera, because you think of marriage and commitment. But semantically, I agree with everything you're saying. And I also think of commitment as like an ongoing process. So it is a little bit more of an expectation and stronger. I guess a commitment to something could be shorter term, but especially like marriage, it's like, you're committing before you even know what's going to come up.
Well, I would dare say you're going to be with yourself as long as or longer than you would with your spouse. So, committing to your own self-care, committing to your own health, I think is just as critical as any other commitment that you would make. And it's going to be lifelong, regardless of how long that life is. But if you want to make the commitment to be healthy and fit, you'll make that commitment. So I liked this bath because I think there's an opportunity to kind of tie in what I do, which is try to get people healthy and fit, and a way for them to use your ritual bath as kind of that moment to sit down and really set their intention to really make a deep commitment to something. And it can be to a person. There's different opportunities here, but I think, having the self-love and again, this is really, this whole book is about kind of building a lifestyle, building a thing where you're healing yourself because you love yourself.
Absolutely. And I like that idea that, commitments also can build as milestones on each other. Like if there's something, and I think I mentioned this in this meditation, which I'll go into in a minute, but if there's something that was really hard for me that I committed to in the past, then I know that I'm able to do it. And I can even call that up and then say, what is it that next that I can be successful at, and how did I make that work before? So anyway, in this bath, I talk about calling, in this case, the goddess of commitment, Hera, because she was the goddess of marriage in Greek and Roman. And we talk about leveraging the energy of commitment to better your self-care, your health, your relationship, whatever it is, and to connect to her energy, which might be bigger than yourself, so that you don't feel alone in it. So, that's one example of leveraging a higher power and making the ritual sacred. So you can use lavender oil to create peace into the bath and balance your emotions, sandalwood oil to relax you and to focus your mind, because when you're committed, you really want that focus on what it is, and don't be distracted away from it and just forget, because you need to follow through. Cedarwood oil to make you feel safe, grounded, secure, and open to love. And then I said the stones would be lapis and diamond because they're associated with the goddess Hera. Obviously, you probably wouldn't have diamond in the bath, so maybe a lapis, which is pretty cheap. But actually, the reason the diamond was because originally, like if you're talking about commitment in your marriage, because some of these baths are also for couples, then maybe you could put your wedding ring in or whatever. So it's kind of nice, fun that way. But anyway, so you're calling her in and asking her, or whatever higher power, your higher self, whatever you want, to help you commit to lifelong commitments or things that will really serve you in the long run in a higher way and give you extra power and empowerment. And you're going to close your eyes and you're going to think about what you have been the most committed to already in your life, like I said, that you can draw on. Where have you been successful? Because sometimes we just feel like, oh, I'm not capable. I'm never going to be able to do this. It's bigger than me. My impulses are more powerful than I am, which really isn't true, especially in the sense of our spirit. Like I really find it's much stronger than any of these physical things. We don't always feel that. So we're trying to access that and where we've been successful before. And then how did your actions reflect those commitments? So you're leveraging your successes before first. And then after that, you're asking which commitments currently are hindering you, because maybe like you've been unconsciously committed to eating sweets for comfort and you're not even sure why. So what are the underlying things that are sabotaging your commitments right now? And so you can meditate on that and ask for any guidance around that, and to release any commitments that may hurt you, like eating sugar for comfort, and to strengthen any valuable commitments that maybe you've been wobbling on. So you can get guidance on that. And how often do we have time to really reflect on that? We might make a list of everything we have to do, but then we don't really monitor, like have the time to kind of go deeper into like what is sabotaging us, what's the underlying payoff for not doing it, right? So to get guidance on those things, and to take about 15 to 20 minutes to look at what areas of your life lack commitment, and to ask what would it take to really commit in those areas. And I would just choose like one or two, because otherwise, it's hard to focus on them all at once, but to get any guidance and to ask for any ways to overcome obstacles in those areas. And when you're done, you would thank Hera in this case, and you would thank her for developing your stick-to-itiveness, and you would affirm, I resolve to keep my commitments no matter what results arise. And you would blow out your candle. In this case, it was a blue candle. And you're going to your place of relaxation afterwards, as I said, and you're going to sip some rosehip tea to connect with your commitment. And I even talk about then in your journal making a contract where you say, I now commit to do whatever it is 100% for 6 months. And so that you can actually put it up somewhere and you can see it and monitor how you're doing and what's getting in your way.
And that was my favorite part. You can actually go back. This is going to be episode 161, but you can actually go back to episode 1 of this podcast, and it was about commitment. And I actually have my clients write a vow, much like they would in a relationship getting married. I have them physically write that down, and I say, you can post this anywhere and everywhere you need it to be reminded on a daily basis of the commitments you made to yourself. So when I saw that in there, I was like, this is totally cool.
I love that, Alan. And in my first book, which was a long time ago, Dating from the Inside Out, I actually had singles that I worked with marry themselves first, because I feel like it is very hard to, before you really commit to yourself around something, to do anything external for other people or whatever. So,
and it's powerful. I mean, it is powerful. And, I've actually had people break down and cry while they're writing their vows, because that it gets that visceral, that emotional for them. And so it is a very valuable tool, doing this reflection in this ritual, the sacred bath, and then sitting down and literally writing it out and saying, this is what I'm going to do for myself. So again, I just thought that was extremely powerful, and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
If someone wanted to get in touch with you, where would you like for me to send them?
So the easiest thing is my book website, probably, which is Sacred Bathing, SACREDBATHING.com. I also have a therapy website, DrPaulette.com.
Well, as I said, this will be episode 161. So you can go to 40 Plus Fitness Podcast /161, and you can find those links plus a link to the book. So Paulette, I really do appreciate your time today. This has been an awesome conversation.
Thank you. I had a great time too.
If you enjoyed today's episode, would you share a link, 40plusfitnesspodcast.com /161. Next time on the 40 Plus Fitness Podcast, we meet with Matthew Swigart and discuss his book, Pathways of Chi. Until then, have a happy and healthy day.